Hello and welcome. In this video I plan to show how to switch from the standard render pipeline in Unity to the universal render pipeline and still have without having a reduction in quality of the video and images, because I had some issues myself doing that and couldn't really find videos that explained in detail what I needed to do to avoid having the detail become much worse when switching to the universal render pipeline. The app I am using here to test is an app launcher for the Quest, and it comes from a repository on GitHub. So I didn't make this app myself, or at least not all of it, but I have made my own, and after working on my own app for a while, I just found that there already was an app that did much of what I wanted it to do, and I plan on forking it and working from that, as that seems like a good basis. They load apps faster than mine did, and so on. So I have two projects: the home launcher and the app launcher. The app launcher I made minimal changes to, so it's just the Unity version that I updated for this one, compared to the original Git source that I will link in the description. But it's still based on the standard render pipeline, and the standard render pipeline here just has very good quality images for each game and so on, so I can show them here. I'm using the Oculus developer tools, and I'm using that to cast the device, and I have a window here so that we can see it in more detail. So here we have the app from the headset, and if I put on the headset, whoops, here we go. And so this is the home launcher version, and I had some trouble getting good quality on these images. It doesn't show as well in the video, but it will probably be more easy to see when I start showing how I will convert the app launcher app to URP. So here's the app launcher app. What I have found so far is that with URP I can actually see the textures out here actually get a higher quality in the color gradients, because they look pixelated. It's probably not visible in the video, but with the standard render pipeline, these images do have some higher quality by default, and then I fixed that in URP by setting a higher render resolution for the whole app. And there are some different ways of doing that, but I'll mainly focus on one of them in this video. So now I'll just return to the computer. And here we have the app launcher and the settings. So it's important to not have a max texture size, I think, because it can max give 2000 times 2000 texture. And then there's texture compressions, and well, you can force uncompressed and such, and I'll just leave this to the renderer to decide, or the app. So we also have use player settings for the texture compression, so we can see the other settings. And The important settings are the player settings, for example, where it's open GLES API and it's linear color space. And I'm not sure all of these settings are really optimal the way they are. I changed them a bit from the standard Git one, and it just overall seems to run well. It's using IL2 CPP, .NET Framework, incremental, and I'm pretty sure it must be using the Oculus one, and I'm using multipass. It's more compatible with more shaders. Multi-view should actually perform better, but I'm using multipass just to have more shaders available. And then in OpenXR it can support single pass instance and not multi-view, which performs better, but OpenXR is not very well supported by the Oculus SDK yet. Then there's the graphics, and here there's no render pipeline asset because that's mainly for, well, there's some scriptable render pipeline settings, so you can use that with without URP. So yeah, as we can see here, it's all based on the built-in shader right now. And in the quality settings here, we have anti-aliasing set to ×4, and yeah, no render pipeline, full resolution on textures, forced on anisotropic textures, so it also increases the quality. Some of these settings can generally be set pretty high in this app because it's only for launching apps, which helps quite a bit because you don't have to worry that much about the performance. So now I will try to convert this to the universal render pipeline, and we do that by going to the package manager. And I think I might actually already have installed it. Yes, universal render pipeline, so it's already here. And there are some samples and such. And then you would also need these if you want to have the VR stuff, mainly the Oculus one if you're developing for the Quests. And those should actually be enough. And then when they are installed, if you want to begin using these, you have to make these settings by going to the plus, choose rendering, and then create the global settings asset and the URP asset with universal renderer. Let's make a new one, so we'll call it new, and we have that here, and we'll create a universal renderer. This one, and let's delete the old ones to not be confused. this one doesn't have much in the settings, but it's needed. And then here we have the default settings. And we need another one. Here. So now we should be able to pick this one. Yes. So these are the standard settings for it. So here's the app, and there's also other things to take into account, which is the cameras. And what to make sure here is that it can allow MSAA, which it does, and I also enabled allow dynamic resolution. But I haven't really experimented much with that yet. But I am using it in the other app as well. I can't really know for sure which of these eyes are actually used, so I just put the settings on all of them. And yeah, it just uses graphics settings, so we can control everything in the graphics settings. So after having done this, we can go into the build settings. All of this still looks fine. And then on the graphics, first thing we'll do is select this one. And it now has new textures it will use. So there we are. And another place we need is going here and also selecting this. So now I will begin building this to the Quest device to show how it looks when you just add this without doing anything else. But to make it clear, here we still have full resolution on the textures, but here we have a resolution scaling factor, fixed DPI factor, and it's 1. This means that it renders at it should render at the Quest's own resolution, the native resolution of the Quest. This generally just looks the same as before. There's not much to look at in the other settings, so it's the in the other settings, that's the other than the other settings. So but in the other settings there are the most relevant settings, I think, for this tutorial. So it's important to have VSync count, to not do VSync. And then we have the graphics. Let's see. Yeah, it all looks as it should, but the real settings when it comes to URP are actually in these. So as you can see here, it's here we also have a render scale, another one, and here we pick the MSAA and what type of upscaling filter I'm just using automatic for now. I tried testing a bit, but I couldn't really see if there was much improvement or which of these to use. But yeah, the default settings are these. So now I'll try to show how that looks if we build it. So I'll go to build settings, make sure the Quest 2 is the target device, and I'll choose build and run. And this will take a while, and I'll call it the launcher URP. So I'll just pause this while it builds. And now it is done. So I've opened the cast device. Yes. And here we have the rendered app. And I'm not sure how easy it is to tell in the video. I don't think it is especially easy to tell actually. But what I can say is that right now it's not a very good picture quality. There's a lot of flickering in the image because it doesn't have any anti-aliasing. So all of these images that used to be crisp before I switched to URP, they are now flickering, and every time there's a small angle or and such, a small edge to something, it flickers, and all the lines, that are usually just a line, are now very jagged and blinking, because you can also see it in the squares around me, although not in the video, but I can see it here. So right now it's not as we want it to be. Oh, and something else to notice is that the controller is now gone. There's no controller in the hand, and there used to be a controller. And this pointer thing, the ray, it used to be blue before, and that's because these shaders are still built-in render pipeline shaders, and everything turns purple, all the textures and such, when they are using an unsupported shader. So if we go back to Unity, a way to fix this is to, we can also see it inside Unity. The whole floor here doesn't work now, but to fix this for everything, we can go in on a window, rendering, render pipeline converter, and do this one. So it will upgrade all the materials. I haven't actually tried that one before, so let's see if that helps also. But there will be some errors because some of these cannot work in a universal render pipeline, and my workaround for that was to find a different shader that would do something similar. Works better than expected actually. Yeah, I think it was possibly because I had imported another project in the other one for helping with being able to move around the map and so on. So it only actually seems to have one that failed, which is the relevant run. Oh well, Let's try converting assets. So quite a few assets to convert here. Obviously, the larger project you have with and the more textures and shaders and so on you have, materials, the longer this will take. And it also depends on how powerful your machine is. So here we go. It converted the assets to URP, and it actually worked quite nicely in this example. And I'm wondering why it's switched the whole scene though, since this is obviously not the same scene. But let's just jump back. So now we can see this was working, and I think those are just old errors, so we'll ignore those and see if they come up again. So this means that now all of the textures are changed, and that should now support the universal render pipeline. So now I'll try running again, but without actually changing these settings still. So it will still be without anti-aliasing, and it will still be at a lower rendering scale, and it will still be without changing the graphics and quality settings. Well, there's actually no settings to change under graphics. It's mainly quality here, where we can also change the resolution scaling. So yeah, let's try to build again now with the new materials, shaders and such converted to URP. And I'll pause again, since this will again take a while. Oh, and last time I did this it took I think it was about 3 minutes, but it should actually be possible to tell from my watch in the windows. So be right back. And it's actually already just about done. Copying to the Quest, and let's open this and this. So it has already launched, it seems. The casting seems to be lacking, even though it's not in the Quest. Oh, that was better, I think. So the difference now is that the floor can be seen, and if I activate the controller, we can see the controller again. For some reason it didn't get the ray pointer caster thing. It's still purple, so that will have to be manually fixed by finding it and so on. But yeah, it hasn't really solved the problem from before. It's still very flickery images for these games. So let's go back to Unity. And next is to change these settings. So first up, we need anti-aliasing times 4, and this one to 1.5 instead of just 1. and the other settings should be fine. And I think for now I will still leave the quality settings to not upscale. To see how much of a difference that makes, if it makes a difference. So let's try again. And this time I'll let it just run through, because it shouldn't actually need to do much to launch it on the Quest. Last time it took less than 2 minutes at least. And that's because it already did most of the compilations and rendering. Yes, copying the APK, so that's the final step. So I will open this again, so you can see it's now launching the app. And yeah, this is already looking better. But yeah, I must say it's still flickering a bit. It's much better now than before, but not as good as what I had done in the other one. And I'll say the controller still moves smoothly, and I don't see pixelated textures on the walls like there were before we switched to URP. So going back to this, we'll now try the quality one and setting this to also 1.5. Under the quality settings and the resolution scaling fixed DPI factor, it actually has a tooltip saying scale factor for fixed DPI when scaling the screen resolution. And I will try building again. And this time I will put this over here and open the video. And it actually for some reason also needs the developer one to be open. So it's copying to the Quest again, and I already have the Quest on, and we see the app load. And this should be it. It still is. I'm not actually sure I notice any difference from before. Some of the text in A Fisherman's Tale is still a bit flickery, and same with Adam Savage's tested VR. It's the blueprint sheet drawing he has is also flickering a bit, and the drawing beside it. So I think I'll try putting the settings even higher, just to see how that affects this. So under quality, we set this to 2. And here we try to also just up it to 2 and MSA 8. And we'll try running this again. And it is pushing it to the headset, and now it's relaunching. And there is less flickering now, and I think the controller also seems to be moving just fine. And that's probably because this is a pretty simple app. There is a slight bit of flickering in the small text, but it looks a lot sharper now actually. Of course, you have to consider it per app you run. Because you have to always consider the performance and the benefits and drawbacks from it all. I can highly recommend using these developer tools from Unity. It's how I can cast to the PC, for example, which is done with this. So we can see the casting window here, and if I stop this, it goes away. For some reason this record video doesn't seem to work, but the screenshot does work. If it's actually active. So yeah, then you can have screenshots from it. And you can also choose whether to take a screenshot from one eye or both eyes. The good thing about this is that you get it from the Quest itself, so you should see the quality that you have in the Quest, but I mean you have to also test it inside the Quest to be sure, because there might still be issues there that you can't just see in a casted video, like with these specific quality settings of the graphics and images. But yeah, that is what I found out so far. Treat the settings as most suits your app, obviously. Try to see if you can optimize things and get the best frame rate and so on, and that's also something you can use these, because there's a performance analyzer. If you run this, I guess you can just activate it. No, it doesn't really show it on live much, but yeah, these tools can really help debug and see how well it performs in the Quest. And you can also actually have some overlays activated, so here there's a metric HUD you can activate, so you can have this running inside the Quest as an overlay, so that you can see how well it's performing. So there's generally a lot of different good tools here, and you can also see that it's what apps are running on it, and launch them or shut them down. So it gives some nice control over your Quest. And there's a file manager, so you can see videos recorded on it and apps installed and other things. Well, I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I hope you found this useful, and that you have a nice day. Bye bye.